Okay, this page is all about totals and equations, which means, yes, we're working with a little bit of algebra and balancing equations, but we're focusing on addition. And the word totals is our key to know that we are focusing on addition here. So here it says, circle all the equations where the unknown is by itself. All right, so checking out the unknown being by itself. Remember, the unknown is represented by a letter. So the equations where the unknown is all by itself, there they are across the top. Now, this part is the really interesting part, in my opinion, because we have a model that helps us understand how we can use two parts of any addition question to find the other part. So up until now in your math career, let's call it, you've probably been used to having part one, part two of an addition question, and then the total. Sorry, you probably are used to having part one, part two, and using that to get the total. That's what I meant to say. But if you have any of those parts, you can figure out what the missing part is. So if you have any two of those parts, you can figure out what the missing part is. So if you have part one and part two, you could add them together to get the total. If you have the total, you can subtract the other part that you have to figure out your missing part. So these models below will help us work on that, and it'll help us understand how these equations can be kind of moved around a little bit so that they're still in balance. They still balance, but they could help us solve for the missing part. So in our first equation that is done for us, sorry for jumping around, it's just my mouse is being really sensitive. And it's not cooperating. There we go. Thanks for cooperating. So here we have a model. Let me just explain the model. You have a long rectangle, and then you have two smaller rectangles. And the amounts of the two smaller rectangles need to equal the total, the longer rectangle, right? Because the longer rectangle is the same size as the two smaller ones put beside each other. So in this first problem, we use the letter K to show that we don't know the amount of the total, or the top rectangle. But we have part one and we have part two. And here they kind of fill it out for us. And all they want us to do is write the three equations down and then circle the one where the unknown is by itself. And if you're tempted to solve and figure out what the unknown would be, like in this first one, 8 plus 5 is 13. You could do that. I would definitely do that if this was my math work, because if I knew the answer, I would want to show that I knew it. But to answer this question, we have next, we have a total and we have part one, but we don't have part two. Part two is the letter K. So let's create our equations. The first one, our total is 24, and part one plus part two would look like this. 24 equals 21 plus K. Next time we have 21 equals our total 24 minus K. K is unknown. And in the third one, we have our unknown K, our total 24, and our part one, which is 21. And it wants us to circle the one that has the unknown all by itself, and that would be this one here. So this one would be the easiest way for us to solve for K. K equals 24 minus 21. Well, if I had 24 and I took away 21, there's lots of strategies or ways I could do that. But what I'm going to do is just start at 21 and use my magic math fingers to count to 24, 22, 23, 24. So the difference there is 3. So K equals 3. So that makes sense. 24 minus 21 equals 3. Let's check the top one. 24 equals 21 plus 3. Yeah, that makes sense too. So if I wanted to, I could just write that K is 3 in the model. Okay, you get to work on this yourself four times before flipping over to the back to take a look at some questions here. Here it says circle the part that is larger, underline the difference. So in the first one, it says there are 9 hats. There are X amount of scarves. And there are 4 more hats than scarves. Well, they circled the largest part, and here's the difference. There are 4 more hats than scarves. That's all it wants us to do. Okay, circle the part that is larger. There are X hats. This time I'm circling X hats. There are 7 scarves, and there are 5 fewer hats than scarves. I'm underlining the difference. Okay, you can do that for C on your own. And then we're going to look at some problems. Let's start with the second one. Leela has 12 red marbles. So what is compared? Well, let's read it first. Leela has 12 red marbles. She has 8 green marbles. How many more red marbles than green marbles does she have? So comparing red marbles, green marbles, we know she has 12 red marbles, and we know that she has 8 green marbles. So how many more red than green does she have? Well, we need to write down the difference, which is our unknown. I'll use X. X is the classic letter to use here. And now I want to make an equation. X equals 12 minus 8. X equals 4. Let's do one more. There are 13 dogs in a shelter. There are 7 more cats than dogs in the shelter. How many cats are there? Well, we are comparing cats and dogs. We know we have 13 dogs. And we know the difference. There's 7 more dogs than cats, but we don't know how many cats there are. So what was the difference? 7. So let's see. We're going to say our X equals there are 13 dogs in a shelter, and there are 7 more cats than dogs. So if there's 7 more cats than dogs, oops. I don't know why my numbers are disappearing. So let's use a text box. Okay, we're going to use X equals 13 plus 7. The next line is going to say X equals 20. And we're going to check it out. If there were 20 cats, would that make sense? Well, it would have a difference of 7, and there are more cats than dogs. So that makes sense. All right, let's move on to the bottom. It says write an equation where the unknown is by itself and then solve the equation. So here, I know you don't have a lot of room for these, but you could do them on the side. Dory hikes 8 kilometers on Saturday. She hikes 3 kilometers more on Sunday than on Saturday. How many kilometers did she hike on Sunday? So we need to figure out Sunday. So I'm going to write S for Sunday. No, I'm just going to use X for my unknown. And we know that she hikes 8 kilometers on Saturday. She hikes 3 kilometers more on Sunday than Saturday. So we are going to add the difference, find our answer, and X is going to equal 11. Give it a try. Hopefully, you're starting to understand and see how these equations can work.